Welcome to the PhoenixUnleashed.com. My name is Eliani Campbell. I am the founder and the creator of the Phoenix Unleashed. Our motto is rising up and breaking through our challenges. Our mission is simply to introduce people, their stories of accomplishment, and their strength to break down personal barriers in order to reach their dreams, while uplifting our audience in hopes that they are inspired to do the same. Right now, I'd like to introduce James A. Dickerson, aka Mr. Fantastic. He's someone that I've known for nearly 14 years. I know him as an entrepreneur, a businessman, a motivator, a consultant, coach, pastor, business startup, blog talk, radio host, author. The list goes on and on, obviously, or definitely. But I'd like to introduce this man also as someone that I've known to have his shares and ups and downs. I know him personally to be a phoenix. So, James Dickerson, welcome.
Thank you so much, Eliani Campbell. And I must say that I am really, doing super fantastic, charged up with positive energy, exuberant and excited about life, ready to face my next challenge with courage and enthusiasm. If I was doing any better, my smile would become a socially intrusive, maladaptive behavior, jacked out of my mind, and I ain't taking it back. And yes, I am proud to be a phoenix, and so I'm really happy to be accompanying you on your show. Thank you so much for inviting me to the PhoenixUnleashed.com. It's really happening. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. You know personally how I've talked about this for so long. This is what I dream about. I wake up thinking about it. I eat it. I sleep it. That's all I think about is the phoenix. And since I've known you personally, as I said, I can state that you are truly a phoenix, but I want you to tell your story of being a phoenix.
Wow, it's a long, drawn out story, and it goes a long way back. I mean, it started way back in North St. Louis, and I was born in Homer G. Phillips Hospital. That in and of itself is a phoenix story, being the black hospital in town.
That's true.
So there's a lot of great people that have come into my life that have contributed to making me who I am today. And so I got stories surrounding all of that. But I guess in a nutshell, I can say that I grew up, a kid from a great family, and I made some bad choices. And the community that I grew up in provided some options that maybe it doesn't provide more affluent people. And so those options had to do with gang activity and drug life. And so I got tangled up into those things. By the time 1989 rolled around and crack was in full swing, I had been in gang activity and drug activity for a few years and found myself shot up and, facing manhood and, having dropped out of high school and, in a wheelchair and trying to figure out what I was going to do with myself. And by the grace of God, I connected through a church. And, the black church has always been a beacon of hope and light for us. And so it was exactly that for me. And an incredible pastor pulled me out of the streets along with the help of some other people. And here I am today, 20 years later. And there's no resemblance of who I used to be. And so it's a long story. I've had several times where I've had to, end up in the ashes over these last 20 years. But again, I am a phoenix, and I keep rising.
That you are. Okay, James, you have a lot of talents. As I said, I've known you to be an author. I've known you to be a leader, entrepreneur, motivator. I've seen you, have known you to just be out on the bus stops and, as you said, riding trains, just ministering to people and talking to people. Can you tell me more about your pastoral position? Because I know that you are a pastor, you are an ordained minister.
In 1993, I accepted a calling into preaching ministry. And it was April 25th, 93, that I actually preached my first message at Praise Tabernacle Christian Church in St. Louis. It was at 1910 North Union. I never will forget it because my message was entitled Looking for the Lost. And that has become the theme of my life, looking for the lost. And I pulled that from a passage of scripture, Luke chapter 15. Most people call it the lost and found of the Bible. It's where Jesus talked about a shepherd who had 100 sheep and lost one. And he said how he left the 99 to go and find the one that was lost, signifying that one is very important to God. And so I have been in ministry now for 19 years, and I've come to realize that each soul is important. And so whether I'm in a pulpit or whether, like you said, whether I'm on a train or a bus, it doesn't matter where I am. All I'm looking for is lost souls, and I'm looking for them because I believe that I have that light that I can shine on people. And that light begins with my smile, and then it leads into a conversation, a heartfelt conversation, and I try to reach into people's lives and do the best I can to lead them to the knowledge that actually led me into my own salvation.
Okay. Now, you're a motivator. You've also gone by JD, the motivator. You've gone by a lot of names.
Boy, that's reaching back.
When did you realize that you were a motivator? That you had that gift, that you had that which you do have to motivate, to drive people, to push them to do better?
I realized it around the same time that I started in preaching ministry. I was actually invited to come and speak at a school that I went to. Middle school, Turner Middle School, and the principal that was there used to be my teacher when I was a young man, and he actually came into a store where I was selling men's clothing, men's suits, and there I was suited up and everything. And you got to understand, these people didn't think that I was going to live past 21 years old, and at the time I was 21. And he was very shocked to see me suited up, and he said, "James, it's incredible to see you like this. I'd like you to come talk to the kids at my school." Okay. And I went to the school and I started talking to kids, and that day all I did was told my story and everybody cried. And I realized then that I had something special. And in fact, the superintendent of schools asked me to come and speak at all the schools in the district. Okay. And so that began something that turned into really a lifelong journey. And we can talk more about that if you like.
Okay, well, I will invite you back on that one because I know that you have tons and tons of awesome moving stories to share with others.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, I want to go into more of things that you've dealt with, maybe obstacles and challenges and things that you've had to deal with. I know we all have times where we just like hit a brick wall, and sometimes we give up. Have you had times where you wanted to give up, and obviously you didn't give up? What caused you to keep going and to keep pushing?
Good question, and I got to go back to. This kind of ties into the first question about being a motivator, because I started as I used to work for the Department of Mental Health, and I was a developmental assistant, and I worked with people who have developmental disabilities. Back then, they used to call them mentally retarded, kind of a dirty word nowadays. And so I worked with several of them, in fact 8 of them at one time, and they were, to me, and this was the job that I wish that I could keep if it paid more money. You know what I'm saying? Because it was so rewarding. But one of the individuals I worked with, name was Donald, and I always remember Donald because he was in his 40s and yet he had never fed himself.
Right.
And so I actually one day was feeding Donald, and it looked to me like I saw in his eyes the desire to do it himself. Mm-hmm. That messed me up, and I mean, I interpreted it to be that. So I asked him, I said, "Donald, do you want to do this? Do you want to hold this spoon and put food in your mouth?" And he made a noise and, "Ah!" And to me that meant, yeah, show me.
Okay.
And so I started working with him. And almost 7 months later, he grabbed a spoon and got a little food in his mouth and got so excited he threw it everywhere. And that was the first time in my life I knew what it was to cry tears of joy.
Wow.
And so that night I went home and I wrote these words in my journal. I now believe all human beings have the capacity for positive change and growth, no matter what, no matter who. And that became my core philosophy. And the reason that, back to your main question, is why don't I give up? And have I had moments where I wanted to give up? And why haven't I? Is because my core philosophy. I believe it. The more I prove myself right by working with people whose lives have actually changed, and the more my life continues to change for the better, the more I am motivated to continue to go. And yes, I've had some disappointing moments. I've worked with kids. I've mentored them. I used to be a orientation coordinator for a Job Corps, and there I met some challenged kids who were at risk, gang members and things like that. Kids from households where the parents were on drugs and things that, and fathers in prison for years and they've never met their father, so on and so forth. One of the guys I met, I actually went over there to pick him up and take him to Bible study with me one night, and he told me, no, but I'm going to come Sunday, and Sunday is going to be my day, and I'm changing my life that day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got about a block away and heard gunshots, and he died.
Wow.
He was shot in the back of his head with an AK-47, and his name was Antoine, and I never will forget him because I ended up having to speak at his funeral. And the day that his funeral took place, that was the day I decided that I was giving up. I'm done. Mm-hmm. I'm never going to work with another kid again. And then I bought myself a Sprite and I opened the cap on it, and the cap said, "Please try again."
Mm.
I still got that soda top to this day,
okay.
And it's been many years now, about 14 years ago. And I keep looking at that soda cap, and it keeps telling me to keep trying.
So you're being motivated and having the need, or knowing that there is a need to help others, is one thing that keeps you going.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you this? What advice would you give to someone what advice do you give to not give up, to those that feel hopeless and just throwing in the towel and say, I can't take it anymore. I'm not going to be successful. I'm not going to reach my goals. I'm not going to make it to where I want to go. What advice do you give for them not to give up?
Well, I give some, it's sometimes it comes across kind of harsh, because I know how people become emotionally attached to their excuses. And wow. So I know that because I've been that person. So
explain that.
People become emotionally attached to their excuses to the point that their excuse becomes their security blanket. Woo. And it keeps them comforted in not achieving greatness. And so they use whatever the reasons and excuses and all of that they come up with as to why they haven't achieved any greatness, why they haven't lived their dreams, why they haven't went after their goals. They keep using that over and over and over again. And then when someone comes and speaks against it and tell them, you can, this is possible, and I can tell you how to overcome the obstacle. So if I just actually defeated their excuse, then I have actually awakened an angry person. Yes. People are mad at me for taking their excuses away. It does. It happens when I take an excuse away from somebody, and the main way I do it is by sharing with them stories of people who have similar challenges. Because here's the truth. Everybody who wants to be someone greater has to go through a series of challenges. Every
Amen.
one of us.
Amen to that.
There's no way around it.
Yes.
The harder the diamond, the more brilliant the sparkle, which means it had to go through more pressure to bring it out. And so you have a Mandela who became president of South Africa, but you wouldn't have President Mandela without 27 years of Nelson Mandela, the prisoner,
Amen.
who was the freedom fighter against apartheid. And so his imprisonment, made him and prepared him for the presidency. And so I tell people all the time that, you might be going through a wilderness experience right now, but just on the other side of this mountain is the promised land. So I tell people all the time, just keep on going. Now, I like to share a story that I share often, that there's this guru,
okay,
right, who's sitting along the roadside, and along comes this young warrior who has decided that he's tired of fighting for a living, and he wanted to know how to find great success and happiness in life. And so he went up to this guru and said, man, you well known. I know that you can tell me where success is. How can I find happiness in life? And the guru said, I'll be glad to show you. I know exactly where it is. It's right over that way. And he pointed towards what look like, a thicket, a bunch of trees and woods. And so the young man said, are you sure? He said, I'm positive. And he headed off and he ran into the woods, and not far into the woods you heard a loud splat. And then the young man came back. He was a little bit scratched up. He said, hey, I went that way and got splatted. Are you sure it's that way? Mm-hmm. He said, yes, it's that way. So he went back and ran back into the woods. And then you heard, after a while, a double splat, splat. And then the young man came back, and he was bleeding, and his clothes was ripped up, and he's breathing hard. He's infuriated. He's upset. He says to the guru, you old fool, I went that way, and all I keep getting is splatted. I demand you tell me where success is. And then the guru said, success is that way. He said, well, where? He said, just on the other side of splat.
Just on the other side.
Just on the other side of splat. And so right when you come to the edge of a thing, it becomes more difficult. I'd like to share one more example.
Go ahead.
And so here's Jesus walking on the water, right? Mm-hmm. Here's the disciples in the ship. And so here's Peter saying, if it's you, bid me to come to you on the water. So Jesus said, come. Peter stepped out of the boat, and the scripture records him walking on the water. When he gets so far into the water and walking on the water in the middle of a storm, suddenly the wind starts blowing louder, harder, and it's howling, and the waves are slapping against him. And the scripture said he turned in to look at the storm, and he began to sink. Then it says he cried out, Lord, save me. And then the master stuck his hand out and pulled him to safety, and they made it to the ship. What intrigues me is what most people miss, is that Peter said, save me, and all Jesus did was reach his hand out and pulled him to safety, which means he was within arm's length of his goal, and things grew worse.
Right.
And his attention went from where he was headed to what was going on around him. And so the biggest problem that I see people having in achieving their goals is, instead of keeping their eyes, as we say, cliche, in a cliche fashion, keeping your eyes on the prize. Right. What people do is focus on things that are happening around them. And so Booker T. Washington said that the circumstances that surround you are not important, but how you respond to them is. And ultimately, it is the determining factor in your success or failure in whatever you endeavor to do in life.
Yes. Yes. Very true. Very true.
So.
Okay. I'm almost done. Couple of more questions. What's your why? And I got this from you. What's your motivation? What is your why? Why do you do what you do? Why do you push yourself every day? Why are you up to 2, 3 in the morning? When things And I know personally that you have experienced some things that will make other people say, I'm done. I'm done. I'm never going to do this again. Financial losses, um, creating things and creating, I guess, businesses. And I'll just put it out there to have it snatched away from you. Those are things that you have dealt with. But what is your main why and your motivation, again, to just keep you going?
Very good question. And you know what? It's true that, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not big enough. Because I've been a motivator for, since '93. And I found out that I've never actually motivated anybody. In all these years, what I discovered is all I can do is inspire motivation. And it comes from within.
Yes.
And so when it comes to me, my why has to do with my children. I have 7 children. 4 of them I made, and 3 of them God blessed me to have in my life to raise. And so they all mine. And my why includes my mother, who has, who doesn't have an incredible retirement laid up for her. She's not retiring wealthy. My why includes my brother, who has taken ill, has to have hip replacement and several other things. He's on so many medications, and he can't even afford the things that he has to have just to keep him alive. My why includes the young men that I see on the corner when I'm driving down the street. If I ride through a neighborhood that's an unsavory place and I see people just hanging on the corner, then I'm stirred inside, and I have to continue, and I have to fight as hard as I can. My why is my church. Is so many things that I would like to see happen in my church. I want to see ministries born. That there's a vision at our church for young mothers who are struggling and single and trying to make it with their kids. I like to see us opening up safe houses for them and places of hope. My why includes helping men who are homeless to move from homelessness to hopefulness. And it's huge, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger all the time. And so these things are what motivates me, and has nothing to do with money. I've never actually been money motivated. I've always been mission motivated. And my mission is to explore, realize, and promote duplicable strategies for extraordinary human achievement, and to teach and empower and to inspire others to maximize their life's potential. And so that is my why. My mission fuels my fire. It keeps me going. And that's why I keep rising from the ashes. I rise from the ashes of depression. I will rise from the ashes of brokenness. I will rise from the ashes of messed up relationships. I rise from the ashes of abandonment, betrayal, and all of the other things that can happen to a person who's trying to live their dreams, because I realize that I'm walking in the footsteps of the greatest people of all time. So, yep, there's money attached to the things that I do, but right. But everything that I want to accomplish requires some money.
Yes, and that's the case with so many people. I hate to say it, but we need money to do what we want to do, and money in order to help others to, as you say, accomplish your dreams.
That's right.
Okay, in closing, I'd like to ask, and I want you to share with our listeners, pardon me, what legacy do you want to leave before you leave this earth?
My legacy. What legacy do I want to leave?
Yes.
It's a real deep question for me, and so we want to bring my kids back into the picture. And so I want my kids to be able to say their name and people ask them, "Are you related to James Dickerson?"
Okay.
If my son Isaiah says, my name's Isaiah Dickerson. I want people to say, you wouldn't happen to be related to James Dickerson. Now, somebody, some religious, pious person might want to make me feel bad about having that desire for my name to be great like that.
Right.
But my desire for that greatness in my name that really has more to do with the dignity that my family will enjoy in the future. The family that I'll never even get to know.
Right.
My great-great-grandchildren. Henry Ford's great-great-grandchildren know his name. John D. Rockefeller's great-great-grandchildren know his name. And there's countless others whose family know their name, who have big portraits of them up in every one of their homes, and they all celebrate the legacy of that person who did something incredible that changed the course of history for that family.
Yes.
And my legacy is, the legacy of the Bible, which says that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. So I know that I have to leave some things here that are tangible, that are real, that can be fondled and touched. Some things that can be experienced. So I'm not just, taking everything with me. So I'm leaving my thoughts here. My legacy is my mind. Everything that I've learned through the years, I'm scrambling now to make sure that I get it recorded in writing and on audios and on videos. I want if the internet is the future and it's in its infant stage now,
yes,
and somebody might be listening to this audio, this interview 100 years from now.
Yes.
And if you are listening to 100 years from now, you have no idea of how primitive the stuff that we're using right now looks to you. But the things that we're using now won't be the things they use in the future. But one thing's for sure. When something hits the internet, it never disappears.
Yes,
and
never,
so
ever.
My legacy is that I conquered the internet in its infant stage.
Oh, we don't want to talk about that. People, let me share this with you, okay? Years ago, when the internet, in its infancy, James was at the library, and all the other little kids were on the internet. And he's like, I'll never get this little kids on. I can't even get it. And we laugh about that because now he does web design. He knows so much, and he's teaching me so much. But it's funny, years ago we laughed about it. He was afraid to tackle the internet and the computer, and now he is a guru. And we'll talk about that in some other interviews with social networking and media networking and using the internet for profit and just to reach people. I just wanted to share that about Mr. Super Fantastic. Well, James, it's been a great interview, and I thank you for your insightfulness and your good words and everything that you brought to us. And again, thank you so much. And I look forward to inviting you back again soon. We're going to touch on some other things. In closing, I just want to thank you for tuning in to the PhoenixUnleashed.com, and please return to look forward to more interviews with other great people that are making changes and becoming the Phoenix, or their Phoenix.
Thank you so much, Eliani, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And for those who want to get in touch with me, you can always find me on Facebook. Just Google my name if you want, or again, go to any social media, any social network, and become my friend, or like me on Facebook. Do something like that. You can stay plugged into what we're doing next. There's a lot of incredible things that we're about to unfold.
Again, thanks for visiting the PhoenixUnleashed.com. Have a great day, great evening, wherever you are. And again, remember, our motto is rising up and breaking through our challenges.